Good afternoon, friends. It's Heather at Bush Puppy Farm. Hope you're doing well. I had some folks ask if this mousetrap bucket actually worked, and yes, it does. So let me show you how. Okay, so I just have a regular bucket here. I got this one at our local hardware store. One of the important things is to fill it about halfway with water. That is because when a mouse comes up and falls in, first of all, the water drowns them, which is sad, but that's how it works. But if rats get in here, they're really strong. And if there's not water in here, kind of high, they can splash and move around enough to knock it over and they can get out. So it's important to put the water in there. So basically, it's got these little trap doors here. There's water in there. And so here's the bait. And it's in a little cage in there. So all they do is they come up these ramps that are just on each side here, and they walk over and they try to get the bait, and boop, they fall in as soon as their body weight hits it. And yeah, it's effective. You do have to check it every day because you don't want rotting bodies in there. I know it's disgusting, but that's what happens. And make sure you dispose of them properly, and then just reset it. And the reason I'm setting it up is I've been seeing a lot of predation on plants in the garden. Here's an example. My one pumpkin, you see all those chew marks? Now we're not going to eat that pumpkin. We'll probably end up decorating it or something. And the reason it's still on here is that it's not quite ready to be harvested yet. And so I'm trying to let it go a little longer, but yeah, so like my fingernail pierces it. It's not ready. But boy, if they eat all of it, I'll be really mad. So it's time to start really pumping up all the traps. I have lots of snap traps for rats and for mice. They're two different sizes. So tonight when I come out, I'm gonna set them up everywhere in the garden. Now is the time because I'm gonna start over the next couple of weeks, we're starting seeds. We're gonna start transplanting and shifting the garden over to fall. And I want to get rid of as many rodents as possible before I put stuff in the ground. So, and like I said, I've been noticing lots of predation. Here's another example. So I want to make sure that I can get ahead of the problem. I mean, it's always a losing battle, but that's okay. Just realized I was still super zoomed in. That was probably a little too close. Okay, so one of today's projects, it is the afternoon and it's hot, but I'm going to get this done anyway. So we are going to set up this Birdie's raised bed right here to get ready for direct sow. This bed is going to have multiple successions every week of carrots on this half, and on this half, beets. So the oyas are filled, but you can see how low the soil level has dropped. Now, the reason for that is, and it's normal, is that we lined the bottom of these beds with they were halfway full pretty much with cardboard. And then we put soil on top of them in the spring. And we did that, number one, to save money on soil, but two, the cardboard breaks down, it feeds the soil, it brings in lots of earthworms. For some reason, earthworms really love the glue that holds cardboard together. And so it invites soil life into your raised bed if you do that. You can also do it hugelkultur style or lasagna gardening style, where you layer cardboard and soil and green manure and stuff like that. But in this case, it was January, and so we just went ahead and did it this way. So I've got bags of raised bed soil that I'm going to put in here. Normally, I would order compost from our compost supplier, but a couple reasons. I'm not ready to get this whole garden going with compost yet. It's still in summer. And our house is still under construction, so there's literally no room on the driveway for a big mound of compost. So, because there are multiple cars and trucks in the driveway and parked on the side of the road, and we still got the storage unit. So it is not the time to get compost delivered. So I'm just going to use bag soil for this, and it'll be perfectly fine. Also, it'll be nice, light, and fluffy. I am going to go in first, even though I grew potatoes here, I am going to go in with a little fork and just kind of loosen everything up, because carrots, want it soft and fluffy. Today's going to be hot, but the next couple of days, actually the next week or so, is going to be really lovely, like highs in the upper 70s. And we go down in the 50s at night, so even when we get hot. So I think the carrots are going to be fine. I have never tried to grow a fall crop of carrots, but I'm going to try now. I have plenty of seeds. Can't hurt. Same thing with the beets. I have no success growing them in the early spring because we just don't have enough sun. So this is my chance to try it this way. Also today I am planting, so these are, this was the pea trellis for the spring. They got off to a very slow start because we had a very cold spring. And those are the only long noodle beans, Chinese red noodle beans that germinated. So on the rest of the trellis, I'm going to go ahead and pop in some peas, pea seeds, and water them in deeply and just keep working on that, and they'll hopefully germinate with no problem, and there will be not as much bird pressure. So in the early spring, I have a hard time. They germinate just fine for me in the early spring, but the birds get to them before they get big enough to climb the trellis, and so I have to net the whole thing. It's a lot. So I'm interested to see how fall peas will do for me, fall to winter peas. I'm also going to be putting them in this area here where the shiso and the rest of this squash is. Now there was a squash here, but it has been eaten, as you can see. And the shiso is still producing because it's a frost tender annual. So I've been feeding us and the chickens from it. And then, next week I'll clear this little area out, set up another trellis, and plant more peas. And we'll continue to have squashes going as long as they can, squashes and beans, because I've got more squash here. It's continuing to produce, which I'm very thankful for. So it'll be a slow transition, but it will happen. I also, it's so funny, there's collards over here that I planted in this early spring, and we keep harvesting on it, and it just keeps going. It's turning into like that kale type of plant where it's just going to get a tall, long stalk, and you just keep pulling from it. And I also bought this guy today when I went to get soil. Couldn't help myself. This is a tree collard. It is a perennial brassica, and it can live up to 12 years. I find that amazing. So I am going to put it in with the artichokes here. This is perennial artichoke bed. There's only 3 right now, but I have 3 more seedlings to go in the ground here. And I basically am going to turn this area here, this big stretch, into perennial vegetables with this tree collard, the artichokes, and maybe a couple other perennial vegetables. I thought about doing sunchokes because they're really easy, but nobody in my family can digest them. It's horrible. It gives us all really horrible stomach cramps. And so I think we're going to have to pass on the sunchokes, even though those are a great perennial vegetable. It could be a thing about preparation, but I've done a lot of online research, and I've tried the different preparation methods, and nothing seems to change how it affects our guts. So yeah, I think it's just not for us. Anyway, those are the projects for today. So I'm going to get started because it's hot and it's like noon. The sun is right overhead. Going to go out ahead and fill this bed, get it prepped, put some fertilizer in there and mix it up. Actually, the carrots don't need a lot of fertilizer, but the beets enjoy it. So I'll kind of fertilize more in the upper half for the beets. And then I also need to find my wood slats, because the way I've been starting carrots lately for good germination is, barely dig a trench, basically just sprinkle them on the surface, press them in, water them in deeply, put a board over them and keep checking that until they germinate. Then you can take that off. And then, as they get big enough, thin. And that seems to work pretty well. So that's going to be my plan. All right. I'm going to set you guys up and get started on this process. There's a nice breeze, but it's hot, so I don't want to be out here for too long. Okay, I was just getting stuff set up and look at this little dude. Can you, oh, he just took off. It was a baby Western fence lizard. Super cute, only about this big. Anyway, I just wanted to see if that board will fit, and it does. So the carrots that I'm sowing today, next week, the next couple weeks, it'll be new carrots, is the Black Nebula variety. These wasps are very thirsty. I'm sorry, guys. So these are the, I don't know that they're wasps, and they never stop so that I can get a good look at them. They are all over the chicken run. I use lime. They're all over everywhere. I use lime to kind of keep them down, but they're literally everywhere. You can see them all flying around there. At first I thought maybe they were hoverflies, because hoverflies can look, you know, are black and red and yellow stripy things, but they're not. They're absolutely not. I do have hoverflies in the garden, but these are not them. These look for all the world like some kind of wasp, but I gotta tell you, knock on wood, for 2 years they've been here and they don't bother us. They like don't come up to us. If they do, they land on you and then they just kind of fly away. Like, I don't know. But as long as they're not stinging me, that's kind of all I care about. Okay, I'm going to sow the Black Nebula on this end, and then the other end, where I added some Sure Start fertilizer, we're going to put these Golden Boy beets. Golden beets. Like chard, beets are a compound seed. So these look like individual seeds, but there's actually multiple seeds in each one of those. And so I'm going to sow them kind of far apart, and then I will need to thin so that I can make sure that they'll bulb up. Otherwise, if they're spaced too close, just like carrots or radish, they won't form a bulb, which is fine if you're just going for the greens, but I'm going for the actual root of the crop. So, all right, get these guys sown, and then we'll move on to peas. Okay, so that's it for the planting for now. I want to show you this crazy rose arbor. Okay, so the hard summer prune definitely paid off. I mean, I'll have to come in here again, but I won't do it until January. because if I do it now, it risks putting on too much new growth before the frost and stuff. But I mean, I kind of love it. Like, obviously, that's like the harvest stage, but I love these really blown open ones that are kind of like faded. Oh, I just think they're so gorgeous. I'm so pleased. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th year with this rose arbor, and it is really just exactly what I had hoped it would be. I would love to have more down here, but that's really challenging with climbers. I've done the best I can trying to weave in, but it's just so beautiful, and you can see it from the road, which is so nice because it's a nice, just kind of, hey, this is a garden to all my neighbors who drive by. I think that's it for out here. Tonight I'm going to come out and set up a whole bunch of traps, rat traps, mouse traps. They're all snap traps. And I'm not sure if I'm going to bait them or not. There's some theories that, if you go to the extension office and you ask about the best way to deal with rats, a lot of times they'll tell you to set out the traps for multiple nights unbaited so that they just kind of get used to them. And so unbaited and unset, basically just sitting there. And then on like the 3rd night, you bait them and you set them because then they're like, oh, what's this? And they've associated that with not being a dangerous thing already because they've like run by it or run over it a number of times. And because it's not set, it doesn't go off. So I do see the value in that. But rats are also super smart. And in my experience, keeping the traps in the same spot for multiple nights, you don't catch anything, set or not set. So I think I'll probably just bait them. I've tried everything over the years. Peanut butter, which they really like. Dried cranberries, marshmallows, crazily enough. So yeah, I'll probably just put out a whole variety of goodies. Usually if I use peanut butter, it's kind of an alarm sound. I'm going to make sure they're okay in a minute. Usually I use peanut butter and I will put like chicken scratch, the seeds and stuff, in the peanut butter, because then they really have to kind of dig in there and that makes the trap go off. So, I mean, it's gruesome, but if I want a garden, that's the only way I can do it. And this garden is small enough that I can kind of manage it. It's a lot harder out at the farm. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden and enjoy your weekend. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.